Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining this morning. I believe everyone who couldn't complete their assignments as of as of Thursday, have muzzled strength to do so. So like I mentioned on Thursday, um security co-pilot requires resource in setting up a reserved instance in Azure, which costs a bit. And doing so may mean that you're going to spend the rest of your free Azure credits on that. And since we still have so many more modules to cover, I think it may not be a good use of our resources, but it's just for us to be aware and also for people who may be willing to write the exam, also for them to be aware and also to cover the exam areas basically. So that's why we've included and we will discuss it on Thursday. So today I'm going to move on to the next module. So today I'm going to move on to the next module. Just a moment. Which is mitigating threats using Microsoft Purview. So I'll start sharing my screen in a moment. Please let me know when you can see my screen. That's okay. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can say it.
Okay, thank you. No, I did not say co-pilot is not part of the exam. I say we have mentioned it because you are expected to know it as part of the exam, but we are not going to go further into the demo just because it's resource intensive. I don't want us to burn the rest of our credits on it. And I also personally do not want to pay for any Azure service basically to cover the rest of the program. So that's what I mean. Um, Incidentally, I think we touched on an aspect of this course earlier in the program when I was trying to show something around risky signing. But for the purpose of today, we'll be covering investigating and responding to data loss prevention alerts and also investigate insider risk alerts and related activities, how to search and investigate with Microsoft Purview audit, and how to investigate threats with content search in Microsoft Purview. One thing I need to quickly mention, a lot of time, or maybe let me ask you this way, a lot of time when organizations are breached, what do we think is usually the motivation behind it? When an attacker sits somewhere and decide to breach an organization, what do you think the motive is always is? Or what are the usual motive? Let me ask that way.
Financial.
Financial, in what way? How do they derive financial?
For instance, if they hold the company ransom.
Okay, if they hold the company ransom, yeah, that's one way. By encrypting or making, what's it called? A sensitive document that the business needs to operate being not available, then owe them ransom till they pay. Yeah. Okay, financial. But I'll just say, yeah, financial through ransom. Okay. Any other person, any other points?
Um, Most of the times they are looking for the company's data or
Yeah,
information.
okay. They look for company sensitive information. And what do they do with it?
They either sell it or you can also use it. If it's a nation state, they are looking to use the data. If it's maybe ordinary hackers, they are looking to sell it to other people that will further exploit the data.
Yeah. So, yes, so the two of you are correct. And to be honest, the reason for attack, I mean, the motivation for attack can be varied and vast, but mostly it's usually, I mean, if it's not by state actors, and if it is just not maybe a script kid, someone that is just trying his hand on how to hack or excited about hacking for the first time, it's usually financial. It's always have some financial motivation. And how do they achieve those financial motivation is one of the things we are looking at today. Through access to a privilege or sensitive document. In some cases, you have a ransomware where the attacker just make those files or maybe those sensitive data not available, and then forcing the organizations to actually pay ransom. But recently, a lot of organizations, in fact, I think in countries like US, they are making it more difficult by law for companies to actually pay ransom. So organizations are not always, what's it called? Does not always want to pay ransom nowadays. And what the attackers are always looking for is actually to steal the data. So if the attackers steal the data, there are several ways they can make money from it. One, they can contact the people who owns the data. Maybe for instance, if you have an e-commerce organization that collects people's card information, right, and save it, maybe because they are buying one thing or the other, or just to make purchase easier when those customers come back. If they get access to those card data information and they decide to contact the owner, basically, with maybe some additional information, they can extort the owners. That is one. Two, also, they can sell those information on dark web. And I think as of the last time I checked, that was around January, I think a single card, I mean, a validated card on a dark web goes for about $5. So if someone is able to steal maybe 5,000 card holder information, and you multiply that by $5, basically that means the person has raking $5,000 by being able to just breach an organization and stealing 1,000 card holder information. But for companies that save or that collect card holder data, you also know that they are usually big companies, and in most instances, you have them collecting in the thousands. I mean, in the hundreds of thousands, basically. And that means that an attacker that's successfully able to breach such organization is sitting on a gold mine. I mean, that's just by the side and by the way. So basically, the focus of today is actually on investigating and responding to data loss prevention. So the reason why I picked the analogy I picked earlier is just the emphasis of when an organization has been breached, one of the flag that organization quickly see or that organization need to monitor closely is actually the exfiltration of data. Be it when you see sensitive data being taken out, maybe being uploaded into one site that is not allowed by the organization or being sent out through email or in whatever way that sensitive or protected information is being sent, you need to be able to detect it. And that is what the purview does. So in the Microsoft ecosystem, the Microsoft purview is usually called the compliance portal. And basically what it does is all of the rules, all of the controls that governs the monitoring of data is actually centered within the purview. So we're going to quickly look at, I know I did demonstrate the other time, but I'll try as much as possible to cover the whole of this and also to give us assignments on it and also show us quickly how it is also done. So I believe we can also cover the whole of this today. And then we move to Defender by Thursday. Endpoint by Thursday. Now, the module says investigate and respond to purview data loss prevention. So basically, I already explained that most time when an organization is breached, it's usually for the financial gain. And if the attacker is not asking the internal, maybe the unsuspecting victim in an organization to send email or to convince them to transfer money to a certain account, the next thing that you usually see them do is actually to begin stealing sensitive information. And if they do that, they have not successfully stolen the data until they've been able to take it out of the victim's environment and put it somewhere where they have control. So the data loss preventions are those policies and the guardrails that you can configure to actually detect maybe anomaly behavior or maybe a preset condition. If you have someone taking an action that matches a condition that you have already set, that can generate an alert and that can alert you to suspicious behavior. So if you get an alert that the data is being exfiltrated and you quickly look at it and you saw that, oh, this is actually not expected or it's a behavior that has not been approved, basically, as a security administrator, you are able to quickly take an appropriate action on to limit the damage. So in this course, we're to understand the data loss prevention. Basically, monitoring data loss prevention alerts can help organizations identify risk before they turn into security incidents. If you're able to catch an attacker while they are trying to take out data and you're able to stop it, basically what you have saved yourself from is actually an incident. You save yourself from from having a security incident. And some alerts may be triggered by a single event, maybe like someone emailing a sensitive document that contain maybe card information or maybe protected information like a PII. It is not only card data that that an attacker might be interested in. They may be interested in people's data that you have collected. And that's why for most organizations, it is always important that they also ensure that they don't collect more than what they need, because that puts a responsibility on them. If you don't need to collect personally identifiable information, maybe like things like date of birth, like someone's passport number, all of those details that can make identity theft possible, then you do not need to collect it. If you don't have need for its use, you don't need to collect it. And then that also just saves you from having to put so many controls also in place. Yeah, but again, if you do have it, then it's important that you are also invest in DLP, data loss protection solution that help you detect when I mean suspicious behavior are ongoing, basically. I've already mentioned why DLP is very, very important, and I also mentioned the alerts. One of the reasons why to monitor the alerts is basically, first of all, to understand the risky activities and to quickly respond, and also to improve policy accuracy. If you look at an alert and you say that, oh, this is a false positive, what made it a false positive, you may also want to quickly review and ensure that you actually also refine the policy to ensure that it catches the real thing. How alerts help during investigation. I think we've covered in XDR the purpose of an alert, basically, and how it can help in investigation. We said that Defender is a suite of so many other different tools, and like I mentioned, they are more like a sensor. For someone that was asking for the difference between Defender for Cloud, for instance, and SIEM because of the orchestration capability of the two. I mean automation capability of the two, sorry. I didn't mention that the Sentinel as a SIEM by itself, can only collect logs that are fetched into it. But the Defender's solution, each unit of Defender solution itself is more like a sensor. They are the one that detect those suspicious behavior, raises an alert which they can forward.
From your calendar, no appointment. Starts on Tuesday, the 6th of May.
Yeah, which
at
they
8:30
can
a.m.
sorry for the background noise. Which they can forward to what's it called? A SIM solution or any other log aggregating platform like a Sentinel. So alert can help us do a lot of things, and particularly for purview alert, they actually alert you to data problem within your environment. And when alert is raised, basically, you can have an alert both within the purview itself, and you can have it in Defender XDR, being a single console for aggregating all of the security alerts for the Microsoft ecosystem. So understand the alert, DLP alert lifecycle. The lifecycle always start from a trigger. A DLP alert starts when a user's action, I mentioned that earlier, when a user's action matches a set condition. So for instance, if I have defined a rule and say that I want to be notified or I want to be alerted when someone, for instance, send out a sensitive document, maybe a document that has been classified, for instance, as internal or as highly confidential, and someone send it out. And someone sends it out, basically, I want to be notified. So a trigger is what is it called? Trigger is that condition that you set, basically, that raises the alert. You really want to notify. Notification means just what it says. And Microsoft has two ways of notifying you through alert, which is through the Defender portal, like I mentioned earlier. The Defender, and that's the XDR portal, or maybe through the purview dashboard itself. One thing you also want to do when you get a notification is not just to take the notification, oh, I've seen it. You really want to triage and be sure that understand in details what the alert is all about and the action that led to the alert. If it is something suspicious, if it is something that you need to act on, or if it is a normal operation that you don't need to worry about. So you need to be able to triage it and then investigate it. There are several ways you can do the investigation, and because you can do it in many places, also you may also want to actually look at what exactly you can do and from where. The first part says that you can use Defender Portal for viewing incidents, correlating alerts, tagging users, and taking immediate action. So in Defender Portal, you can do things like we did mention that Defender will aggregate related alerts into an incident for you. So because you also may have many alerts that are related, and it is very easy for you to actually lose view if you have to open maybe like 10 or 13 different alerts to actually make sense of what is going on. So what Microsoft Defender does is, if it detects that, oh, I have this alert coming in from Purview, I have another alert coming in from Entra, I have another alert coming in maybe from SharePoint, for instance, and all of these alerts are related to these users within the same timeline, and they all revolve around maybe a sensitive info type, basically. Then Defender is able to categorize all of those together as an incident for you. So making it easier for you to quickly deep dive into related events on different platforms and help you make a meaningful conclusion. And if you need to take action or even assign the incident to someone else, you can always do that. In Purview Alert Dashboard, you can use that to review alerts and underline the full context, updating the status of the alert, and also sharing with others if you need to. But the thing is, the Microsoft Purview, the full context also means that it gives you the full view of the rules that actually generated the alerts as well, and the status of that rule. So you have Activity Explorer for filtering and for viewing user actions. And then you have Content Explorer for deeper review of the files and the content that triggers the alert. After your investigation, the next line of action would be to remediate. Marking the alert as informational and take no action if there is really no action to take, and following up with user to explain why their action was risky. If you see a legitimate user doing something that is risky, you may want to follow up with the user and educate the user. If you feel that the user is doing some things and you need to revoke their access or probably reduce the level of access that they have, like blocking them from being able to share file externally, for instance, and all of those, you can take such an action. You can remove the file from cloud storage or apply sensitivity label. Sensitivity label are more like a document classification within the Microsoft within the Microsoft, I don't want to use Purview because it's a code name, within the Microsoft ecosystem, basically. So they allow you to apply restrictions and also visual classification on documents. You can reset user's password in cases where you feel the user's account has been compromised. You can disable the account and you can isolate the user device if needed. In Defender, you can take many of these actions directly, like removing or quarantining a file, revoking sharing permission, disabling user accounts, resetting password, downloading or delete emails, or use advanced hunting to look for related events. And there are times also where you need to tune your policy. If you feel that the policy is generating a lot of false positive, it may also mean that you also need to fine-tune the policy. So configure DLP policies to generate alerts. How do you configure the policy? Basically, you have the step-by-step of how to configure policies, and also in configuring policies, you see that you can configure policies based on location and apply it to locations such as Exchange, such as SharePoint, or even on devices. Just for context and to make things easier, I'm quickly going to show us the Purview. Now, I always say that there are three, is it three? Yeah, I always say that there are three important portals that security admins working with Microsoft, working in a Microsoft-based organization. I mean, organizations that use Microsoft solution that you need to be aware of. The first one is one that we've always used, which is the security.microsoft.com, which is for Defender. The other one is Microsoft.com, which is for identity. And I think we've also worked on that while we were talking about the risky user. The third one is the Purview. And for Purview, it is the compliance.microsoft.com, or you can just say purview.microsoft.com. Now, the compliance has been rebranded into Purview. So basically, we go to compliance.microsoft.com. It will redirect you to Purview. Maybe I should even just go there. Compliance.microsoft.com. So you see, compliance portal is retired. I need to move to Purview. So switch to the new portal yourself. And now it's brought me back to that portal where I initially left off. One thing, if you click on close here, it will not close. It's always, I don't know why Microsoft did this one. So I always have to click on get started every now and then for me to actually get to this portal. And you see it saying that setting up application. One of the things that I really quickly want to say on the Purview, you actually have many solutions, and some of them are highlighted out here. So you can click on view all solution to actually see all solution. And if you can see, you can also filter by categories. You can click on core, you can click on risk and compliance, you can click on data governance, you can click on data security and resources. But for the scope of this, what's it called? For the scope of this work, we're only interested in data security. For people who are interested in actually all of Microsoft solution around data governance, you may need to look at SC-400, I believe. I think that's what covers everything. So basically, I'm just going to go into data loss protection. And if I go into data loss protection, this is the dashboard that we're talking about, where you probably see alerts and all. And if you also look at this side, you have policies, you have alerts, and currently we do not have any alerts. So everything seems to be fine. If you sometimes you need to be able to classify documents, and if you need to be able to do that, you can use trainable classifier to do the classification of data. And also for sensitive info type, you have some information that have been generally accepted to be very sensitive, and they need to be protected. So those are the ones that you have in the sensitive info type. For instance, if I search for, and one of the good thing with Microsoft actually is the fact that you can create a sensitive info type yourself if you have one that have not been captured. But basically, Microsoft already created a template of currently about 326 items. If I select UK, for instance, and I search, you see info types that are believed to be sensitive and peculiar to the UK. For instance, someone should not be able to send UK driver license number. I mean, UK driver license number is regarded as protected information because people can use it to identify you. So basically, if anybody have your driver license number, they can use it to even impersonate you anywhere. So it's protected. Electoral roll number is protected because that's what uniquely identify you at the electoral register. It's more like the Nigerian It's more like the Nigeria, what do they call that? That that INEC number. I mean, INEC, I've forgotten what they call it. The INEC, that card INEC normally.
Voters card.
Voters card.
Voters card, exactly, yes. So it's more like the voters card in the Nigeria. But on voters card, you also have the number and ID. So we're just not always focusing on ID in Nigeria. Yep. So you have the NHS number, which is for the health insurance number. Anybody that have this number can enroll as you on an app, and from there also they can have access to your private medical record. I don't know what this national insurance. I think this national insurance number. Yes, I know the national insurance number. I think for people that stays in the UK, we used to call it NI. So basically what that does, it's what you use for your payout when you are getting old and you need to start collecting benefits from the government. You have the UK passport number. Okay, I use UK for filtering. So basically these are the details. They are protected information. And in an organization where you know that you are collecting certain protected information, one of the things you also want to do as a security engineer is to detect when such information that I should use Nigeria for future. Nigeria is not there, sorry. We don't have strong policy to be that anybody can say that we have a structure that they can ride on. We will not take it. Apologies. That's why they say you can create for yourself. I even remember there was a time back when I was working in Nigeria when we were trying to create things for when we were trying to create a similar policy like like this. It was very, very easy creating anything that comes out of Nigeria. In fact, even establishing a pattern for Nigerian things is another headache on its own. Talk less of then implementing it. So it's not their fault, it's Nigerians' fault. Yeah, so what was I saying? I've lost my line of thoughts. Okay. Yeah, okay, okay, sorry. I've lost my line of thoughts. Yep, okay. So basically you have the trainable classifier, you have the sensitive info type, where as an organization you can actually create what's it called? Some classification levels. Some people will have document classification policy in place that says maybe documents should be classified as internal for the ones meant for internal, classified as public for the ones meant for public, classified as this and that, basically. So you have all of that, and then you have the sensitive. Okay, I've spoken about the sensitive info type. Yep. So you have the exact data match, basically, if you want to train for a particular file type, for instance, and you want to be able to do exact data match, you have these also. You can train the what is it called? You can train the platform to recognize some certain data content, and then it will be able to match those data contents in any document containing them. You have an explorer, data explorer, basically, where you see things that people are doing, and you see the different data that people are working on and all of those, basically. And you also have Activity Explorer, which we also spoke about earlier, where you can actually see the different things that people are doing. Maybe like you have document classification in place and you have someone that has the habits of, you have some people that maybe downgrading highly confidential documents or containing sensitive information, and they are reclassifying them as public just for them to be able to share them out. So you can use this Activity Explorer to actually get those information, and you have some other related solution like information protection. and insider risk management. And insider risk management. So I'm just going to go back to policies, and I'm going to, because the idea is how do we actually create a DLP policies so that they can generate alerts. I think that's the question. So if I go to policies, I have the option of creating a new policy, and you see that if it is financial, I can always start from a category. For financial, if my company is working, sorry, just a moment. For financial, if my company is working in, sorry, 1 minute. Leave the door. So for financial, if my company is working in, let's just say UK, for instance, I can click on UK, and this will show me some of the UK related financial data that I should be protecting. So for instance, I should protect credit card number, I should protect EU debit card number, and I should protect Swift code. So basically, if I select these, for instance, and I click on next, it will already it should have already selected just all of the things that I need for me, and I just need to do next because I'm starting from that policy. If I'm working maybe in NHS, for instance, which is a medical company in the UK, you see there is an act, a regulation in the UK around access to medical reports, and I click on this. So this will help me detect the presence of information subject to the United Kingdom Access to Medical Reports Act, including data like national NHS number, basically. So this, selecting this template, you can see the things it would protect, NHS number, and also NHS and the NINO. So anytime I try to access anybody send any content that contain this information, which is not really meant to be shared via email, then this alert would generate an alert. You see, there are some privacy also. I think in the most popular privacy policy is perhaps the GDPR, maybe because it covers quite a number of countries, and it's also mandatory for people people who are providing services to the EU community as well. And you see the information that are protected by that policies that this rule is also going to provide. And you see all of this. Or I'm not going to start or select any of the non-categories just for you to actually see how it's usually done. I'm going to select custom policy, and you see create a custom policy from scratch. I have to create my policy from scratch. I'm just going to call the CSMG policy demo. So, okay, demo policy rather. Command X. I'm just getting how PLP policy is created. And then I'm going to click on next. Now, when I click on next, just try to create the policy objects. And then it asks, comes to assign admin units. Don't worry about admin units. So admin units in Microsoft Entra, you use it to actually split, what's it called? Administrative scope. So in a multinational organization where you have different, maybe IT team responsible for different users, you may use administrative unit to actually limit the span of control of each admin unit, even though they have certain roles or certain rights. that right is limited to only a subset of users that they have control over. That's what they use the admin unit to do. I'm just going to click next. And now you see a lot of time when people are working, you are either in email. So this policy can apply to email, SharePoint, OneDrive accounts, devices, instances, on-premise repository, if you have on-premise directory like a file server and all of those things. And this can include maybe Fabric. And this can include maybe Fabric. And I think just to make the demo easy, I'm just going to limit to only Exchange, right? I'm just going to limit to Exchange. And just to also mention that the more, if you select more, what you see is actually rules that relate to the locations that you have selected. So by selecting only Exchange, I'll see every rules that I can apply to Exchange. If I select maybe devices, I'll also see conditions and rules that I can apply to devices. And basically also you have much information and more rule you can apply if your devices is managed by Intune, or maybe by is managed by Intune or configuration manager. Basically, the more MDM solution you actually have, I mean, if you use one of the supported Microsoft MDM solution, you can use the information available about your device on that platform to also create a policy and also manage policies, basically. So I'm just going to leave it at Exchange email alone, and I'm going to click on next. And you see, it says create and customize advanced DLP rules. So I've only created a name. I've only selected a name. I've also selected a location service where I would monitor, and I'm going to click on next. And now clicking on next, I have customized advanced DLP rules. So I'm going to create a rule. I need to give my rule a name. Let me see what can we, let's even think about what rule we want to create first. I think the rules that I want to create is if anybody share card information, or if anybody shared maybe UK driver license or anything, I want to be alerted. So I'm just going to call it detect PI. Detect UK regulated data or card information in emails. And I have to select a condition. Now, if I want to detect maybe PI high, you also know, you see several conditions that you can detect, but I'm usually interested in what the content contains, because what I want to detect is what the content contains. And yeah, okay, so this group name would always be there anytime you choose to what's it called, anytime you choose to what's the right word, anytime you choose a condition by default, the condition is given a name, so it's default by default, but you can always change it if you want to change it. And also, you know that because we're looking at Exchange, you can have message or you can have an attachment. For people who are interested in message only or attachments only, they can select that, but I always love to actually have both because you may have an attachment that contains the sensitive info type that you actually want to catch. And I'm now going to add the the condition. Okay. Okay, yeah. So I'm then going to add the what is it called? I am looking for in the content. So if I click on the add, I can use sensitive info type or a trainable classifier. I've already shown you what we have in sensitive info type. I mentioned earlier that I'm interested in UK, so I'm just going to type United Kingdom. Sometimes finding UK, okay, U.K. Okay, so UK is this if a UK driver license number is sent, maybe electoral number, NHS, this or UK physical address is in the email. I want to be notified, and if I click on add, you see that it's already added. And one thing I always want to do here to also, and this also you probably come to anytime you need to come to look at things like maybe false positive or false positive if you are having two false positive or false negative. Basically, you may come here to actually review the confidence. So the confidence is to what degree should the system suspect the data before it is actually flagged. I always love to set it at I at first and actually tone down if needed. So I'm just going to set everything to I. And sometimes before some people, if someone is sending maybe an email and it contains maybe just one driver license, some organization may say it's okay. But if someone is sending an email and you have maybe two users, two driver license or something in there, that's when they begin to flag it as an issue. So you can always say the number of instance that you want to count in a document before you start actually suspecting it. So I'm just going to leave everything at one, but also remember that I mentioned that I'm interested in card data. So I'm just going to put card, what is it called? Credit card number. So I'm just going to put credit card here. So this credit card number will work for Microsoft. Sorry, I said Microsoft will work for MasterCard, Visa, Amex. I think JBC, is this JCB or something? Will work for all of those, but it may not work for Nigerian card schemes like let me just say African card schemes like Vev International, for instance. So if you have those, you will have to create a sensitive info type and use a regex that correctly matches those card data if you have to do it. And when this condition is met or when someone send a file that contain any of this information, what do you want to do? One of the things that you may want to do may actually be to prevent them from being able to send it. So one of the things I mean, depends on the organization and the policy. It could be that you just want to what's it called, encrypt the message. You may want to modify the message, append the disclaimer. I mean, these are just showing you some of the things that are possible. Prepend email with subjects and sender managers as a recipient. maybe you want the manager to actually see your people are sending this sensitive information out. But basically, some of the actions that you can take are what you have here, basically. So I'm just going to, just to show that what is possible, I'm going to, what is it called? CC someone, and then it said add or remove user. Basically, I can just add myself to that. And user notification, do you want to inform users and help educate them on proper use of sensitive info type? Yeah, you can say, okay, what do you want to do? You can preview and edit notification email. So customize the sender display email. So if you have a particular email address you want to send it from, you can put it there. I'm just going to say it's from csmg1.onmicrosoft.com. So email subject, sensitive info type detected. And if you want to customize the email body, you can use both Markdown and HTML. I'm not going to differentiate between the two. But for people that have done maybe web programming before, you know what HTML is. Markdown is just the formatting you have, like you have it in Word document. So let me use the Markdown. Hi, we notice you are sending protected information in email. This is not allowed as per the organization policy. Please desist from doing such. Thank you. The security team. So, you see, and this is what it will look like. Hi, we notice you're sending protected information in email. This is not allowed as per your organization policy. Please desist from doing such. Thank you. And if I click on save, I've just saved that. I said notify the people who sent shared or last modify the content. If you want to notify other people as well, you can click on this, but know that they are mutually exclusive. It's radio button. If you want to include the email that flag this policy, you can check this. But for me, I actually always love to include the email so that the user knows why they are being reached out to. If someone is sending email, it's always easier to actually give them a policy that alerts them to what they are doing before they do it. So if you want to actually give them a policy tip, you can write a policy tip here. And I'll say caveat here, it's always work for people who are working from Exchange. If you are writing a mail and you're copying sensitive information from Outlook, there is an extra step that needs to be taken before it can reflect on Outlook. I'm just going to customize the policy tip text. Hello, sensitive info type detected. Sensitive info type detected. Please review your message content. Okay, so if you want to show policy type in dialogue, you can do that. But again, you have to go and create a JSON file. I think I don't want to spend time doing that. I recently did it for an organization, but I don't want to spend time doing this. And if you want to provide a compliance policy, sometimes maybe you are asking people not to do certain things, but they are saying like I wrote somewhere, I said it's against the policy of the organization, but where is the policy? So if I have the organization policy URL, I can provide it here if it's available. but I'm not going to provide it. Sometimes also you may need to allow users to override restrictions if you want them to be able to override, but also note that this is for people who are working in Fabric. Fabric is Power BI, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, basically. And if you want them to provide maybe justification as well, you can. Now you see that this is the actually thing that actually led us to all of this. Incident reports. You see, use the severity. Send an alert to admin when a rule match occur. If you turn this on also, it generates an alert and it's also send it to XDR. And that is exactly the thing. If you want to also, when you generate an alert, since this alert is coming from us, you should be able to, based on this policy, we know what we are looking for and we know how crucial it is for our organization. So we may just want to class it as medium. And if you want to send alert to other people, you can do that as well. And you can send alert for every time an activity match the rule, or maybe you may want to send alert when you have a volume, maybe about 15. But I'm just going to say every time this match for now. Evaluate rule per component, email body, and each individual attachment will be considered an individual entity. I don't think this should be. So in order of this rule selection, you can also click on the priority, but we have only one rules in this yet. So we're just going to leave it at 0 and click on save. I hope I've not confused you. No one is talking. Have I confused you?
I don't
Not
think so.
really.
I think it's
No, I think it's clear.
self-explanatory and the process can be
Okay.
followed.
Okay. Emmanuel, Bami, Sam, have I confused you?
No, we are following.
Ekene, Babatunde.
Yeah, no. You have not
Okay.
confused us. Just that for me, I want to be doing it the way you are doing it, but so I made some step. I have to just hold on until
Yeah,
the video is ready.
yeah. You when the video is ready, you'll be able to follow. Then next, now I can turn on the policy, and you also see run the policy in simulated mode. Show it will just show policy tips alone when people flag the rules. So this is usually good if you just need to test your rule first. Sometimes some people will say that, okay, I leave it in testing mode, but I don't also want to forget, if I don't turn it off or edit it again in the next 15 days, just turn it on automatically. Well, for organizations that follow tight change management, I know that this will not work. So for me, I'll just say turn the policy on immediately, since I believe I know what I am doing, and then I can click on submit. So there are so many data loss prevention alerts that you can configure. And I think I'll say we should even configure one more, but just because of the because of the time, and it's even past the time we're supposed to take a rest. So while this one is creating, I'm just quickly going to move to through the rest of this so that we can go for break, and then when we come back, we're going to risky users. So for DLP, basically you need a license. Hopefully, I mean, God so good, we've already signed up for EMS. EMS has included E5 compliance, which is what is actually needed for Purview. So we are already covered for people that have been following and also activating the license that we requested. But if you have not, this is the license that you need. The most important one actually is this Microsoft 365 E5 compliance. But you don't need it if you already have EMS E5. Rules required to configure the alert. One of these roles, compliance administrator, information protection admin, security operator can only view, reader can only view, but compliance administrator or info protection admin is sufficient enough to make the configuration. We've already spoken about where alerts will appear, how alerts behave after deployment. Now you see, it can take up to 3 hours for a new or updated policy to begin generating alerts. So we may not be able to test what we have just done now. But if we don't test it now, trust me that we are going to test it on Thursday. If your tenants use endpoint DLP or team DLP, alert from those services also appear in DLP alerts. If you're using endpoint DLP or if you're using Teams DLP, you have that as well. How do you investigate DLP alerts? You see, for workload supported, you see the workload supported, and I think you also saw all of this workload when we were trying to set up earlier. Actually, basically you the dashboard displays, so we can configure alert for all of these work streams, SharePoint sites, OneDrive accounts, Teams chats and channels, devices, instances, on-premise repository, and Fabric Power BI. You can review and investigate alerts from what's it called, Defender XDR, and you can also see the details. If you need to view the details, I believe this will route you back to the purview. And you can also view users activity summary around here if you need to. You can also review match events and different details to complete your investigation. And when you are done with your investigation, I always say that you don't leave all alerts or maybe even incidents as active. It's always good for you to actually ensure that you select the status that match your current reality. If it is active, if you are investigating, if it's a false positive and it's been dismissed, or if you resolved it, basically. This is also another use of Microsoft Copilot, basically. And you can also share events. So you can share, you can copy event link and all of those details if you need to. Also, you can investigate what's it called in the XDR, basically. I'm just not going to go in details over this because I think some of them earlier we have done that, and I already also show us how to assign incidents from XDR or alert from XDR to other people, how to change the status, and how you can do the classification. And if you want to do advanced hunting as well, how you can do that, and how you can extend your investigation with Microsoft Sentinel as well, which will probably have logs from other sources than you currently have as well. How do you respond to DLP alert? Basically, the alert is, if you remember the alert life cycle, it is not enough for you to triage. You triage, you investigate, then you respond, and then you respond. So basically, you may want to set status. If you're already looking and reviewing, you may change that status to maybe investigating, and if you resolve it to resolved, you can assign the alert to someone else. If the alert is not meant for you to be looked into, and you can add comments and share alert details, and even generate a link as a read-only link for non-admin to actually look at, basically. So there are several things you can also do in Defender for XDR, which includes disabling user accounts if need be, removing the file access that they have access to, or applying a sensitivity or retention label if needed. And then the what's it called? I think we can do this teaser before we just go for maybe 5-minute break. Let's check our knowledge. You are investigating a data loss prevention alert where a user uploaded a file named budget 2025 to a personal cloud storage account. To understand what policy triggers the alert, whether it was false positive, where will you start your investigation? Is it from Purview? Is it from Defender XDR or from Sentinel? Who wants to try? Easy peasy.
Purview.
Purview. Why Purview?
Because
said
with Purview, you can set the DLP requirements.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I mean, you are close, but that's not the major reason.
Okay, with Purview, you were able to see the policy that match the alerts.
Exactly. So you're able to see the full details of the policy that matches that generated the alert. So that's why it is Purview that gives you the full detail about that particular just that unit of alert that you're looking at. During your investigation, you notice the same user downloaded multiple files from SharePoint earlier that day, which too gives you the clearest view of all related activity in one place. This is during your investigation of the user that is trying to share a file that was caught by Purview. You also now notice that that user downloaded multiple files from SharePoint. You know that two platforms are involved. What tool have we spoken about that aggregates all of alerts and activities from other different systems into one view? Sorry, that's XDR. Yeah. You want to ensure another analyst follow up on these alerts. What should you do in Microsoft Defender XDR? Assign the incident and update the status. Add the alert to SharePoint list. Set the alerts to simulation mode.
Assign the incidents and update the status.
Yeah, assign the incident and update status. You confirm the user improperly handled sensitive financial data. What remediation action is appropriate within Microsoft Defender XDR? Adjust the DLP policies immediately. I'm not even sure you can. Okay, I'm not even sure you can do that from within XDR. Delete the alert from incident queue and disable the user account and remove file access.
For me, I think you should delete the user's account or remove file access in order to, to reduce his probably his access pending the time you review the policy and every other thing.
Yeah, that's more like a response. I mean, that's a response to the threats, basically. So the appropriate one would be to disable the user account or remove the file access. After resolving the incident, what steps help improve your DLP policy and reduce false positive in the future? Tune the DLP policy based on investigation findings, reset the policy match counter, archive the incident in Microsoft Sentinel. The incident is not generated in Microsoft Sentinel, so I'll rule out the last one. So you are left with the two options. Who wants to try?
Reset the policy.
No. Why do you want to reset policy match counter anyway? Yeah, the policy match counter just tells you the number of instances that policy has been flagged. That's not the issue. If after after resolving an incident, I notice that my policy is flagging a lot of non-positive. What I want to do is fine-tune the policy. You know, when I was creating the policy I created here, I was showing you something around, I think it's done. I was showing, but it may not be enabled for another 3 hours according to Microsoft documentation. I was showing you something around the policy, the detection, where you have what is it called? Where I have where it's asking me to actually select maybe the number of match within a document or a content before it can be flagged, or maybe the degree to which the system must believe that the degree to which the system must also believe that the content detected is actually what we're trying to match before it can also raise a flag. Those are the things that you can fine tune later to actually either improve the sensitivity of the policy, or if you believe the policy is too sensitive, to also reduce the sensitivity. And I'll say that the right word is actually to fine-tune the policy based on investigation findings. So I'm going to allow us to go for, I don't know if it's 2 minutes break or 3 minutes break. I'll come back. Wally?
Right now.
Please let me know when you can see my screen.
So,
Yeah.
Okay. So the next on our agenda is for how to investigate insider risk alerts and related activity. And I think sort of the other day, I've forgotten which module we were taking, that I then made a detour to actually go into I made a detour to go into risky user and risky policies. So sort of already we sort of already actually cover a part of this conversation. So understand insider risk alerts and investigation. Why alert generation matter? Alert generation matter for many reasons. A lot of time, alert is what calls your attention when you have a condition that has met what you when you have a condition that met, when you have an action that meets a condition that you are watching out for. And knowing how an alert was generated can what's it called, can quickly help an investigator to identify what triggers the alert, understand which activity were evaluated or which condition was met, determine the appropriate next step, and align alert evaluation with policy criteria if you need to. For all of alerts, you must already have a pre-configured settings. I'll just call it a pre-configured policy. So those settings are already refined to meet your insider risk management strategy and deployment. Risky activities, maybe to maybe privacy setting, risky activities, and if you have maybe certain domains or certain exclusions that you want to make, you can also do that. You create your policies and then you wait for triggers. You wait for triggers, and then you can evaluate activities and also evaluate score. In the scope of insider risk management, one of the things that people always watch for, I always love actually teaching this part, especially when I'm talking about identity, because that's actually my major field in security. A lot of time when people come into the organization, they are excited, but that relationship gets battered, gets interesting, and all of those during the life cycle of an employee when they come into the organization. There are times when they are due for promotion that they are not promoted, and then you probably have some employee that are disgruntled. And a lot of the insiders risk are perpetrated mostly by disgruntled employee or an unhappy employee. And a lot of people also, while they're leaving, they seek to do damage to the organization, be it intentionally or not intentionally. Some people just in the power of, oh, I want to show them after I've left, they begin to do some things that can put the organization at risk as well. So that's why it is very, very important also to actually monitor for untoward behavior, and also then be able to manage that. So yeah, one thing also, and this is not just for insider risk management, but for all security too, you need to be wary of the alert volume. I remember when I was starting out in IT, there was a time when, funny enough, there was a time when we were developing a data center in one organization. I hope Wally will not crucify or laugh. When we were designing a data center, at that point, the data center was new, and I recall that we started monitoring a lot of things in the data center, and every seconds an alert is coming to everybody's email. And the implication of that alert is the fact that it's preventing most of us from reading email that we should be responding to. And because of that, everybody started creating a rule for the alerts, and then we're not seeing the alert again. And there was now one day, I can't remember what exactly happened. The data center cooling system failed. It's been sending alerts, but because everybody already had an alert fatigue, and they already moved their, we've all created a rule. And we've all created a rule basically saying that I don't want to see this alert, just sort it into this folder. We'll look at it when we have time. So the data center was already hot. Nobody knew until maybe one of us even someone walked into the data center, or maybe some servers started shutting down, and then someone was wondering what's happening and walked into the data center and saw that it was like oven. The question was, all of you, none of you got an alert. Everybody already filtered alert from their inbox. And that means that we don't get to see it. Even the data center manager was always snoring that day. It was very, very funny. And that's exactly what may happen if, and this is actually just human behavior. If you configure alert and then it's coming in thousands per minute, it's not sustainable. And what will happen is you actually then end up with people not looking at the alert or finding a way to filter it away from their view. And when they should now be looking at real issues, they are not looking at those issues. So managing alert is very, very important. Balancing alert volume is an important part of maintaining efficient insider risks. If policies generate too few alerts, you will miss meaningful signals. And if they generate too many, investigators might become overwhelmed, making it hard to focus on high-risk activity. So when you're receiving two alerts, review fewer alerts than expected might indicate that your policies are too narrow and that threshold are set too high. So you need to increase alert volume. I'll let you read about all of this. When you receive too many alerts also, you will bog down and overwhelm the analyst, your security analyst, and reduce the effectiveness of your investigation program. So to reduce alerts, enable analytics in settings where possible, analytics to identify risk area and adjust your approach. Use real-time insights to update threshold and indicate selection, blah, blah, blah. I already read the rest of this. And configure options for alert management as well. Investigate and triage insider risks alert in Microsoft Purview. Now, the overview of, I showed you earlier in Purview that Purview is actually solution of so many things, but the category we were interested in was that of just say expander. Yeah, is the category of the data security. And in data security, you see that we touch on data loss prevention earlier. And then you see the part of insider risks. In between also, you have data security posture management, investigation, information protection, and DSPM for AI. So this is the insider risk for management. I mean, insider risks. And one thing that should also quickly jump at you is the fact that OZICO is also not covered by the license that we have. So you need to meet some trial requirements, prerequisites, before you can take on its trial. And the trial requirement is for you to have Office 365 E3 or Microsoft 365 E3 license. For me personally, I can just purchase, I can pay for one license of this just to show you the trial. So for each of your team, I'm not sure if you guys are able to do that, but Microsoft seem to be playing prank that for you to start a trial, you must have purchased, not to have a trial, but you must have purchased Office 365 E3 or Microsoft 365 E3. So I just want to call that out. Basically, so the overview of the alert dashboard, basically in the insider risks, you have a unique identifier for each of the alerts. You have Copilot icon, indicate whether Copilot is available to summarize the alert for you. And also you have individuals, users associated with the potential risk. You see it here. You have the insider risk management policy that generate the alerts, the configure policy. So basically the same way we have configure policy for we configure policy for data loss prevention also. We can configure policy for insider risks, but again, we have to start the trial first. You have Spotlight, our priority alerts. Spotlight helps you just put focus on where focus should be. And you have alert severity, which actually shows you for the Spotlight. I don't think you see my screen quickly very well, but let me zoom in. You can see a spotlight around here for this. So if you have data that is being leaked away, quickly, you can spotlight those highly sensitive, or let me just say those high rated risks, basically, so that you can prioritize them over other ones. You have time detected. Whenever the issue was detected, you have the timeline. If it's been assigned to people or not, you see it. And if a case has been open or not, you also have that there. You can filter, you can customize the view, and you can spotlight on alert activity. You can review it here, and also you can have it review in, what's it called? You can have it review in Defender. And also, basically, if you need to take forensic evidence, a lot of time when you have internal employee doing what they're not supposed to do, you always see it in the employment letter that they may be taken up in courts sometimes. So basically, evidences that are needed also can be gathered through this place to gather evidences that relates to insider criminality, and then be able to take that up for use in court as well. When you have an alert, the expected response is for you to triage, to investigate, to respond, and take appropriate action on the alert. Copilot is also available to accelerate the triage. You can also retain alerts in a needs review state are retained for 120 days. So basically, if you pick an alert and you just mark it as needing review, those alerts are retained for another 120 days. After this period, they are automatically deleted unless linked to an active case. So active and unresolved cases are retained indefinitely. So organizations can have up to 100 active cases at any given time. So cases that, or alerts that, that you turn into a case, are the ones that, that are assigned a case. And according to Microsoft, you can only have 100 active cases at any time. If an alert has not been looked at, they are left indefinitely. Unless, they are automatically deleted, sorry. Alerts that are in a review state are automatically deleted after 20 days. Those ones are left inactive, those are left indefinitely. Unresolved cases are also left indefinitely. So analyze alert context with the all risk factor tab. The all risk factor tab in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management provide a summary of potential risky activities associated with an alert. Or maybe I should just pause here and try to explain some things. A lot of time when people think about defending IT, most people always think in terms of someone that wears an hoodie sitting behind a laptop that the company does not know, somewhere out of the organization. A lot of the time, those are not the bad guys. The bad guys are the people that you meet in the office every day. So a lot of them are there sabotaging. In fact, I've had cases from Nigeria where people who are working in certain organizations are stealing, and they are stealing the data of the company to actually do something else. So if maybe me as a data owner actually get to see another person using my data, and I know that that data is only available to a company called A, for instance, I don't have issue with the company that is using my data. I have issue with the company that have entrusted the data into their care. So they need to explain how company B has taken my data from them and how that data is being used. For all I care, they could have sold it. So if I need to sue anybody, I'm suing them. And the company B also need to be able to explain how they get my data, but the onus is on company A to actually go for companies B jugular if they are able to establish anyway that company B are taking the data away from them. So ensuring that the insider risks management in Microsoft actually help you manage your the risks associated with trusting people in your organizations who are then given access to sensitive information. I always say that if I ever return to Nigeria, which I will, and work in Nigeria, that I'll approach security differently than how security has currently been done in a lot of Nigerian organizations. They just do security as installing antivirus. I mean, some of them are trying, but most banks in Nigeria today, I almost can tell you for free of I almost can tell you the reason why majority of them are having the kind of issues, especially around fraud, that they are having today. It's because they invest a lot in security, but not in the right direction. For banks, the identity security should be the core for people in banking industry or other financial institution. And I think that's where most of them are actually very weak. They still approach identity governance through the traditional method of someone disabling accounts and all of those things. And that's where some of their frustration are always coming from. Go and investigate any fraud in bank. You always track it down to assets, improperly governed, improperly managed assets in the bank. So some of these things are what insider risks may also be able to actually pick up for them if they've done identity governance the way it should be done. So risk factor shown in this tab, you have top exfiltration. For instance, if you have people uploading files, for instance, to cloud, in my organization, and okay. So basically, if you have people, if in your organization, for instance, you have people who are copying, downloading files and uploading it into their personal Google Drive, I think that or sending email to external recipients containing sensitive information, if you establish that pattern, then you are establishing a risk factor for your insider users. You use the content detection section. Basically, you can use this to view metadata such as file names, types, location, and sensitivity label if present. These are some of the stats that are available, and you can important behavior to understand is the risk factor summaries don't always match triggers, and alerts might be triggered by access to priority content, but the tab could instead highlight unrelated risky browsing activity or or sequences that increase concern. Consequences can include excluded events. Even if a file type is excluded from scoring, it can still appear in a sequence if it contributes to broader risk behavior. Use the content detention section to investigate further. Investigate activities detail with Activity Explorer tab. I did show us the Activity Explorer tab earlier, but we didn't have much information there. So the Activity Explorer tab in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management help analysts investigate the full context of potential risk behavior. So sometimes if you need to actually deep dive into different things that has happened, you might actually be able to do that. And from this screenshot, actually, you are seeing different behavior, and you can see the workload, which is endpoint. This is actually happening on the user's compute device. You can review activity details. You can filter activities details for investigation if needed. You can customize the view. You can understand activity count discrepancies if needed, and you can investigate excluded items in sequence if need be. And also, if you have a particular view that you have created, and then you need that view maybe for just to revisit maybe much later, and you don't want to lose the view, you can also save the view. You can also save that view so that you can get back to it later. And also, if you have a user that is always in the known and you have established some pattern against the user, one of the things you can do is actually to use the activity tab to review the user pattern. You can see this activity for all users over the last 3 months, and then you can see different things that users are doing, like access, like deletion, like okay, there's no infiltration. You can see defense, evasiveness, basically. So all of these heat map, they actually represent something, and those things that they represent are what you have here in the legend here. So if you have a particular user under investigation, I remember at work, maybe last year, someone just, I think we resume on a Monday. I don't know what has happened, and then someone just called me to say that so person has left. I think the person just decided to leave without giving what's it called, appropriate notice period. I don't know what transpired or anything. They just want us to investigate and also know what the user has been doing in the last 30 days. What they want to be sure about is if the user has been taking out maybe data, because I think the person got approached by a competitor. The person just jumped ship immediately without giving notice period and all of those things. And when you are being approached by a competitor, what the reason why competitor always approach employee of another organization is just because of the trade secrets or the insider information that they have that they believe will be beneficial. And most time, people that are moving across to competitors also, you see them actually taking out sensitive information with them or downloading some files. Some of them they may have worked on, but anything you work on in the employment of a company or an organization becomes the property of that company. And yeah, based on that, the information, what they have is the property of the company that has employed them, basically. So in that light, in that vein, the information belongs to the company. So yeah, they made us to say that, so we want to see the activity of these users so the insider risk, if your company has it, is just one slot like that for you to quickly actually see what people have been doing, like you have on this form. And you can use it to identify patterns over time, dates of events, the risks that the activity risk, and then the files, even the names of the files, the emails and everything that they've been taken out or probably been forwarding out. All of those details will be obvious. So you can use the scatter plot. The scatter plot is this that we have up here to visualize risk pattern, and then you can filter and sort user activity. If you need to deep dive, if you need to spotlight on a particular action that the user has been doing, and you can interpret the user timeline, basically. So the insider threat module within Povy is not the only place where you can investigate that activity, just like what's it called? Just like the DLP, it gives you more details, but in terms of actually correlating it with other activities from other source systems, basically, Defender then comes very handy. So within the Defender, if you want to see maybe activities that relate to Purview Insider Risk Management, you can actually go in there and also filter by So you can see Microsoft Purview Insider, filter for Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management, and that brings you only a view of alerts or information coming in from Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management. So yeah, you can review that. And some of the things that you can do from the Defender status, you can probably have it as new. You can set it in progress. You can set it resolved. So the alert status also sync, and classification also automatically sync between Purview and Defender. So if you change any status in Purview, that syncs down into Defender, and if you do it in Defender as well, it syncs down into syncs down also into Purview. Microsoft Defender can classify risk management Microsoft Defender classification is a bit different from what you have in risk management classification. For Microsoft Defender, you have true positive, which is a confirmed case. You have informational or expected activity, which is classified as dismissed, and then you have false positive, which is dismissed. You can investigate insider risk activity with advanced hunting. We know how to get to advanced hunting in Defender. Security.microsoft.com. So basically in Defender, you can use the advanced hunting. If you go to hunting, advanced hunting, you can construct a KQL, the Coastal Query Language, to actually get any information that you want, and in whatever form you want them, in a table structure here. Basically, so you just need to create the query, and then it comes out. So the requirement for our setup for what's it called, for insider risks data data sharing. So if you basically look at it, insider risks, and you go to the data sharing for the solution configuration, basically. So if you want to share data with other services to maintain, basically you can turn this on to export alert details to same service. If you have same service like Sentinel, and then you want to share those data with it, you can do that. You can do that using or any other service that supports Office 365 Management Activity API can do that. You can share user risk details with other security solutions as well. When turned on, admin with the correct permission will be able to review user risk data from insider risk management within other solutions such as DLP, communication compliance, user entity page within Defender etc. So you can be turned on, and this. You can look at all of the other policy settings as well, and do that. One thing also to note about the limitations of the insider risks basically is that it's not all the insider risk data that is available in Defender. Alerts created from custom detections are not available in Defender. Risky AI usage events are not available. Non-Microsoft app events are not available. Exfiltration via email is not available. Events that occurred before an alert was generated are not available. Excluded events based on policy settings are not available, basically. Manage and take action on insider cases. When you have a case in Microsoft Defender, in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management, cases there allow investigator to track users' risk over time and review associated alerts and take action based on severity or context of the activity. Each case focuses on a single user and can include one or more alerts. Cases are created manually, so an admin has to create a case for a user. If you have a user that is under investigation, you'll be the one to create a case for them manually. And it requires deeper review and coordination with other teams as well. How do you respond to alerts? You can confirm or dismiss. It's either it is true or it is not true. So basically, you can confirm or dismiss. You can create manage cases. You can create and manage cases, assign ownership or reassign, send an email notice to the user, escalate to Microsoft Purview Discovery. E-Discovery is a search tool within Microsoft Purview. So you basically use it to find information. A lot of time, maybe something happened a while back and you want to actually revisit it. If you need to go back in time and find information that has been previously shared, you can use e-discovery to actually do that. And so on the case dashboard, you can have maybe more the summary of the cases that you have under investigation. And basically I'll allow you to read the rest of this. You can take an action on a case, send email notice about the case, escalate it for investigation, or create or view team. So if you integrate team, if team's integration is enabled with insider risks, a team is created automatically when a case is open. So normally Microsoft team is used for managing projects. So when you have a case open, then Microsoft team is also created for that case. Resolve a case, benign, behavior is low risk, accidental or false positive, confirmed policy violation. Behavior is intentional or a serious violation when people have violated a policy or when people have violated policies or leader rules, basically, or with a malicious intent, then you can have the confirmed policy violation. Basically, I think we've overshot our time. I would have said that we should quickly take this module assessment before we call it a day.
I think we can.
I'll stop here,
Just
Wally.
how many minutes? We can just wrap up here.
Okay, 5. Where do you go in Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management to view all alerts generated by policies? Case dashboard, alert dashboard, activity dashboard.
Let's dashboard.
Okay, alert dashboard. How does the scatter plot in the user activity tab help investigators? Wants to try?
Analysis risk score soft. Sorry, it's too tiny. I can't see, but I think it visualizes risk. Yeah, thanks.
It visualizes risk score events over time to identify sequence and patterns. Yeah. What is a recommended next step if an alert involves multiple serious activity across different services?
The middle one creates a case to manage.
Looks like only Ruth came to class. So, what role do cases play in insider risk investigation? They track licensing for each alert. They allow grouping and managing alerts, investigation for specific user. They store power, automate law for compliance tracking. So which one?
They allow grouping and managing alerts, investigation for specific user.
Okay. Which rule is required to use advanced hunting for insider risk? Security operator, insider risk.
Insider risk management.
Insider risk
analysis.
management analyst.
You all said so. Yep. So that is the end of this course.